Yeah, so Venus, you don't never see exactly. So there's a puzzle there. The Venus and the Mars, what do you have to do, running around doing everything and trying dedicated and trying to do everything, and it gets scrambled. And how do you get what you wanted? If you're just working all the time and how do you work and not getting money, it's not going to be appreciated. He's not going to have to want to stay. But finding the sweet balance, this is the two sides. This is the crux of the seesaw. How much money you need to hold the relationship and work together, and when do you ever get time to do your own things for yourself? And how do you make it work? So there's a puzzle in that ninth house. What should I do? What shouldn't I do? What's right? What's wrong? But his instinct is to go off the partner who keeps him sharp, and I better do this, better do this. And they're very different energies. One is sort of the Venus, Mars, Neptune it's ideal, it's confusing, it's gullible, it's mystical. But the Moon, Pluto, Moon, Uranus is far more sharp and exact, are very specific. So one part is very specific, the other part is very evasive. So you say, what are you doing today? What did you want to do today? And then you're going to get the story, third house story, ninth house story about what he's trying to get to. So his dreams, this is a high Venus, this is a Mercury, this is almost designed, determined to get his dreams, to have things taken care of, to be okay, bring up his kids, bring up things. He has that strong with that high Sun and Mercury. It's just a tall order to get it all and have someone there to share it. But if there weren't someone there to share it, he wouldn't bother. So again, it's not, it has this way, that way, this way, that. This is a seesaw working around through the aspects. But I just wanted to touch this Venus because Venus is your sense of self-worth and satisfaction. For him, it's not so much in anything. He could find, if this transcends and he evolves the Venus to a spiritual understanding or to a philosophy, he could want to be understood. I want to understand how people get where they develop really love of philosophy or higher understanding, and understand this to understand and put perspective on the sorrows and the confusions and the unreliability of the world. How do you forgive yourself? What's contentment? It's the puzzle for this Venus. So even though there's a bunch of good aspects, the main story is where the stressful aspects are, because those are the things the person has to work with. Okay. How are we doing for time? Good, good. So, I mean, these three stages, you could do the first 15 points, do the first pilot points, and then go have a tea, go take a walk, then come back and do the second, the planets and the signs of houses. And then you can take a break and then come back to the angles and the signs on the house cusp. Each side, there are all these levels, these layers, they're all piled up on each other. This is the castle of him, or the pyramid of him, all these levels. We're just glancing at each of these levels. And by doing so, by doing it thoroughly, we get a sense that they're all there. And we're starting to structure them and see them. You're never going to hold it all together. It's held together by the chart. The chart is the pyramid, is that foundation, is that base on which he can build a higher understanding, or he could go the other way and build a wrong understanding. If he did that, if you think, you can't tell if someone's good or bad from a chart. So if he did bad on it and he wasn't living honestly, or he was doing something bad, he would get into big trouble right away. So most likely he's too proud, the sun up in the 10th house, and too honorable to do something dishonorable, to not live up to a job, it's more a question of how much can he take. Okay, so we looked at the past, we looked at the future, we kind of looked at his Mercury as we're looking through. So we kind of covered just about everything. We haven't really focused on the Mars, but we saw the Venus receptivity of this. Now we're going to look at the angles, which is how you're anchored into life. The four main things you want to know about someone when you meet someone. What's your name, the ascendant? Where do you live? 4th house. Are you married? 7th house. And what do you do for a living? 10th house. It's in that fairy tale rhyme. What's your name? Cucumber, what do you do? Oh, I forget what the phone. Anyways, I'll leave it. I don't remember it at the moment. What's your name? Mary Jane. Where do you live? Down the lane. What's your number? Cucumber. I forget what the last one is, but it's the same 4 points of the 4 points of the compass: north, east, south, and west. But really, north, east, west, south is the name news. That's how the name news was meant, because it was what's happening in the 4 angles, the 4 directions of the world. So here we're looking at the 4 directions, your angles. So we look at the south point, the IC first, the deepest point within yourself. What motivates you? Where are you coming from? He has Sagittarius there. So nighttime is greater and nighttime is increasing. He's motivated to belong, to be part of something, and to be trying to get more part of a group, part of a team. So for the Cancer, he's motivated to have the family as a team around him. It's totally there. It's mutable. It's adaptable. I got to do this. I got to do this. I'll run this way, run that way. It's fire, the action, running this way, running that way. And it's projective. Again, like, how's he going to sit still at home? He's got to be active, running around, doing things for everybody at home. But it could be motivated travel. It could be motivated by philosophy or by understanding to do everything. But there's a need. A foundation is based on I'm understanding where I'm going. I understand I have to do this. I got to run and do this. There's a deep understanding. This is where his depth is. And so there could be a need to travel, need to be different places, but there's going to be a cosmopolitan, eclectic group of people, team thing around him that he's going to live for. So he would naturally do the dance to take care of the family, however demanding, because it's still much more meaningful and fulfilling than not having anyone to do anything for. So he's motivated to be part of things, to go solve it, to live up to his principles. So he has his values and his principles. They're challenged, but he has the values, they're strong, and he's going to be motivated to run and make it happen, to be motivated by an understanding. So if he has a principle or a belief, and he believes in something, and he and his wife are both living towards something they believe, they have this common belief, that's really going to motivate him. That's going to keep him going. If the partner didn't have the same belief, or that would challenge this. He would still have to hold on to his own understanding. That's the Jupiter rulership of Sagittarius. Now the Jupiters, they're over there in the first house. There's ascendant, so it's in the Virgo. So he's motivated by understanding and having to understand and learn, and almost of trying to travel, or somebody might want a large home or want to have numbers home and be moving or traveling, but just motivated by understanding. And his understanding is a little critical. So there's a somewhat discriminating, a Mercury element. Remember, he had Mercury as the strongest ruler. So this Jupiter is ruled by Mercury. So his mind is guiding his understanding, possibly more than his understanding is guiding his mind. That's the Mercury rulership rather than the Jupiter rulership. Mercury is strong in its own sign. Jupiter's in Mercury's sign. So he's motivated by Jupiter, but he understands what needs to be done, what opportunities there. He's got to get his plan. He has to have his mind working around his understanding or working with it. So there's a puzzle there. And every day he's going to go out and deal with the puzzle. I got to figure what puzzles have I got today? What I'm going to have to do? I got to do this. I should do this. I should do. He's got that. So he's got to project that. Of course, as he goes to project it, trying to get himself together in the morning and out the door, he's got the Mars. I got to go. And then there's the Neptune there. There's going to be all these but do this, but do this, but do this. It gets complicated right off the start. But I'm not so much looking at that. I'm looking at the I see what motivates him. Then he projects that whole half of his chart. The Mars, Neptune, the Jupiter, Uranus, and the Pluto, and all of these things are in that rising side. I got to project. And what do we project? We get up, we look around, we get our senses about us, we see what's around us, we get our image together, and we get ready for the world. But in that process, we are becoming ourselves, and we prepare ourselves to go out into the world. And the ascendant, what do I have to do? It's Virgo, it's self-critical. He's his own worst enemy, he criticizes himself. His wife doesn't have to say that. If she's quiet, he's still gonna think, what did I do? What didn't I do? He's thinking like that. And with so his ascendant, okay, I'm sorry, back up a second. There's no, let's see, his aspects. Yes, the angles are square, so they'll all pretty well make the same aspect, same stressful aspects. He has no squares. His IC 17, no, it doesn't exactly oppose the MC, the Mercury. It's not exactly, it's close, but not just out of orb, but it certainly squares to Pluto and the ascendant. Okay, and it will 17, no, it won't go to Jupiter. It doesn't square to Jupiter Venus. The IC is more stable, but it's challenged by what I have to do. And the Pluto is, I have to take care of this. There's going to be a demanding, a strong confronting factors around living up to his understanding. So he may grow up at home where he has one understanding and the family has a very different understanding, but he still has to deal with it. That's Pluto squaring the IC. There'll be challenges. He gets up to go, and then there's challenges to take up time or to make demands, and he has to hold it together anyways and go and do it. So that his identity, when you look at his ascendant, so yeah, so it's only that one square to Pluto and to the ascendant, Pluto the ascendant, that hits the IC that affects his motivation. I have to do, oh, what do I have to do? What else can I get in? What else can I do? But because the ascendant is conjunct, ascendant's at 19, so it's conjunct to Pluto. It's not conjunct to Jupiter or Uranus, it's conjunct to Pluto. So this is a challenged personality. I gotta hold this together. It's not someone who normally projects out what he's thinking or his identity. He holds it together and just tries to be strong and controlled of his personality. He doesn't project. So even though there's a lot of projection in his chart, he still tends to hold it back and hold it in with that Pluto on the ascendant and determined. But it's a very determined point. It's just as a persona, as a personality, he projects when he has to, but not usually. He does what he has to. It's hard to get feedback for someone with Pluto right on their ascendant. There's a 3 or 4 degree orb. It would be much more intense the closer that aspect would be. But the Pluto on the ascendant still means he's challenged. I have to do this, I have to do that. This is what I have to do. So this feeds into a seesaw again, because his identity is around what has to be done and what's demanding or what's challenging. It's confrontational, but his chart needs to have the relationship that's going to confront him around what he's doing, and then he's going to be confronted and he's going to have to fix it or improve it or make it better. That's the ascendant. It's in Virgo to the Pluto. It's hard to see it exactly. It's just a harsher presence, just a distance. It's like